What is up, freak bitches? I think we're live anyway. How are you guys today? Wherever you are, however you may be watching, thank you for giving us just a little bit of your time. And I'm on the wrong screen, so you guys aren't seeing our pretty faces just yet. But now there we are. Yeah, the Snyder Cut just came out, and boy, there's a whole lot to go over in some of the differences that happened in this movie. And here to go over them with me are, as always, the Dowager Countess Lady Cora. How are you tonight, ma'am? Yeah, it was not a short film. it was. I almost wish they would have broken it up into at least two parts, but hey, it was 4 hours that went by in the blink of an eye. Yeah, it was quite a watch, and and someone who knows a whole lot about DC comic books, Batman, and all those fuckers that we saw in the movie is my hetero life mate, Mr. Jeremy Wolner. And apparently, you guys did not give me the memo about wearing hoodies today. Yeah, but no, we didn't. This all happened right before, right before. But rather it's a like I said, it was a 4 hour long film. So rather than try to break this thing down scene by scene, I thought it just a little bit better off to maybe kind of go over the most significant changes between the theatrical cut that we got, that was a compilation of Joss Whedon and Zack Snyder, just kind of comparing that to all the big differences, the big changes that came out in this Snyder Cut version of the film. So let's get right to it. I mean, one of the ones that jumped out at me was Jared Leto's return as the Joker. For one, I liked Jared Leto as the Joker. I didn't get enough of him in the little bit that we had in like Suicide Squad and stuff like that. I didn't see enough of him to get the full effect as to how he is with the character, but I saw enough that I was very intrigued and wanted to see more. We got absolutely none of it in the theatrical cut of this film that Joss Whedon finished up, and that was one of the things that Snyder really wanted to put in his cut of the film, was to expand on that Joker that we get from Jared Leto a little bit more. Cora, what was some of your thoughts? I mean, I'm assuming you've seen both versions of the film. For this case in particular, it doesn't matter. I mean, there was no Joker in the theatrical cut of the film, so I mean, so maybe you won't be able to tell specifically, but I mean, there really was a big difference in screen time, obviously. What did you think of Jared Leto as the Joker? Yeah, it's one of my favorite groups, actually. They put out some amazing songs. Yeah, if you guys watching out there hear a little bit of rumbling in the background, it's because apparently we have a little bit of a thunderstorm that just decided to roll through my neck of the woods. I don't know if anybody's going to hear it or not. It was just enough for me to hear over my headphones. But in case you guys hear anything funny on the stream, that's going to be what it is. So hopefully we won't lose any power. That's been an issue today already. But I like I said, I really like the way Jared Leto looked in the role and the little bit of time that been able to see him in it. I was disappointed they took him out, but Jeremy, I mean, do you think this was a significant enough piece for people to want to see more of him in this role at some point down the line? Yeah, this movie kind of in the end, as good as it was, a little bit of the way it all played out was kind of disappointing. I'll get to why I'm so disappointed and ironically in how good the film was later on. But another one of the big differences was I will. I ultimately will. We'll talk about it later. We'll talk about it in a bit. We will. But the other thing is that nightmare cliffhanger that happens towards the end. This scene that has the Joker in it. It has Jared Leto's Joker in it. The nightmare part of Justice League's epilogue gives us a lot to chew on because once again it shows Darkseid's forces having succeeded in conquering Earth. This particular nightmare dreamscape was totally absent from Joss Whedon's Justice League, which sort of left the nightmare scenario from Batman vs Superman kind of in the lurch. It makes more sense now to have the follow up to Dawn of Justice dreams since fans would have a complete context for it with like the wake of Lois Lane's death, which Batman failed to prevent. Apparently, Superman somehow has been corrupted by Darkseid and now serves him as some kind of an undefeatable minion of some kind. Most everyone has died kind of in the wake of that attack, including Aquaman and Harley Quinn, apparently. So Batman and kind of this ragtag group of people, of surviving heroes and villains, if you pay close attention to what was going on in there, they kind of scour the wasteland trying to win the day while also avoiding Superman for obvious reasons. Bruce wakes up from one of his visions right as evil Superman spots them all. All of this plus Bruce actually mentioning his time travel moment from with the Flash from Batman vs Superman to others earlier in the movie. It kind of works in service to like the New Gods trilogy that Snyder had kind of had planned. Uh, I thought yeah, I thought that was a fantastic scene. I loved it. As far as I'm not usually a big fan of epilogues, especially for things like this where we know there's going to be a prolonged series of movies that are going to just tell us more anyway. The post credit stuff that Marvel does, I mean, it doesn't really serve as an epilogue. It serves as something else. It serves as a bit of a little mini trailer for what's coming. But but I loved it. I thought it was a really cool scene. I thought that was more of the Jared Leto Joker that I wanted to see. I wanted to see more interaction between him and Batman. Other than just like other than just like that one scene in the beginning of the other Suicide Squad movie where like he's standing on top of his purple Lamborghini and beating it, trying to break it in to try to arrest him and stuff like that. There's this really good dialogue that happens between these two guys that has been around for a couple of really good iterations of this rivalry between Batman and the Joker. And this was the first time we really got a chance to see some of that great dialogue go back and forth. Jeremy, what do you think of that scene?
It's almost like he's feeling like he has to say, I am going to kill you, but like deep down, he's not going to kill the Joker. It's like,
that's the Joker's whole angle. You. That's the Joker's angle. Is like he knows he's not going to kill him. He's like, you're not going to. Well, although I'm like, that is like older Batman, and I'm like, that is also, like I said, the later Batman where that shit happens, and I'm like, I fully believe that line where he's like, when I kill you, and I will fucking kill you. I'm like, I don't doubt that. I really don't.
I don't know.
Yeah, again, I'll get into why. It says Jeremy's volume is really far down. I'll turn the volume up for you guys to make sure everybody can hear. It seems like every.
Oh, you guys couldn't hear me? I'm sorry.
Well, it's probably on my end. It seems like every time we go live, there's always like something on a level that changes, and it's really weird. But the next thing that was probably that to me story wise is one of the most significant things that we got in this version. We didn't get in the other one was Darkseid. Uber baddie Darkseid, played by Ray Porter, is a big part of Snyder's Justice League. Always intended as the evil lurking behind the scenes, much like Thanos was for so long in the MCU. Darkseid is now a much more prominent fixture, motivating Steppenwolf's assault on the Earth. After Diana saw him depicted in an ancient mural towards the beginning of Zack Snyder's Justice League, a flashback showed us Darkseid leading the parademons against the Greek gods, humans, Atlanteans, and Amazonians as pre-Darkseid version. I'm going to get this wrong. I've been trying to figure out how to pronounce it for a couple of days and I can't. Is it Uxas? UXAS? So, I don't know. Somebody go in the chat and help me figure that one out. In the theatrical cut of Justice League, a version of this sequence featured Steppenwolf instead of Darkseid. That was the one where we see all these people, including the Lanterns and some other people, fighting against these people that are trying to invade the Earth. But instead, Steppenwolf's story now revolves around his plan to get back into Darkseid's good graces, revealing to his former master that Earth contains the anti-life equation. When Steppenwolf fails and is defeated by the Justice League, complete with Wonder Woman decapitating him, which was very cool, towards the end of the film, Darkseid orders an all-out attack on Earth and squishes Steppenwolf's rolling head, which is a really cool visual. We last see Darkseid as part of a nightmare. As part of the nightmare, approaching a grief-stricken Superman who's mourning over presumably Lois's skeletal corpse. I must have blinked and missed that particular part of it. I don't remember that, but I'm gonna go back and look. In the theatrical version, Steppenwolf is incapacitated by the Justice League but not killed, and is sent off the Earth via one of the boom tubes, which is being swarmed while he's being swarmed by one of his own parademons. I thought they did an amazing job setting up Darkseid as the big bad of this universe, and I think that the way that they presented him and his mere presence made this so much more watchable than the theatrical version that we got a couple of years ago. What did you think?
I, as someone who doesn't have a lot of background with the bad guys of DC, really thought they made it understandable for the layman to get, this is a bad guy, this is why, this is who he doesn't like, these are who his minions are, and this is just the lay of the land, and this is why you should be scared. It was very well done.
See, one of these days you're going to watch the old movie and you're going to be so disappointed. You're going to be like, what the hell was that? Like, yeah, I like it a lot because I know I'm lame and I'm not like hip like the cool kids, lame. And I'm not a no. I mean, like I'm not like I'm not like all the way. My shaft is all the way into the balls with Marvel. I'm like I'm a DC person. Sorry, I always have been, and I'm like I'm lame because I like DC. I'm like I don't fucking care if your characters are cooler. I'm like they were written later. These are like the OGs. And maybe I am kind of saying like, hey, kind of understand that's what they are. Yeah, you got a lot more, like, Marvel's got all these other cool things, all these other characters they've really fleshed out. But I'm like, I don't know. I just like DC. And I'm like, I was so excited. I've wanted to see, I almost said Thanos. I wanted to see Darkseid because he is kind of our Thanos. That's the thing. And Steppenwolf's kind of like the Ultron. He's kind of like the step below. It's kind of like a Darth Vader, like Darth Sidious kind of thing. That's kind of their dynamic. And I love that they even kind of mirrored that. It seemed like he was, he's trying to prove himself and redeem himself for what he'd done.
I was actually really
like
surprised.
That they finally I like that they gave the backstory of how finding out Earth was the planet that got away. The lost planet or whatever they called it, the anti-life. The whole point is, I thought it was really neat that they tied that in, and it was like, wow,
Earth's the one that kicked your ass. Yeah.
Yeah, I was really surprised that Joss Whedon, with his history of the part that he played in kind of setting up the whole Thanos thing in the MCU, didn't look at that and see the value of maybe setting up Darkseid a little more. I mean, there was that one like part of that nightmare scene that we ended up getting in the theatrical cut where Batman is looking down over this desolate wasteland and you see the Omega symbol. I mean, people who are in the know kind of know what that means and it tells them what's coming. But
And I did not.
But it seemed like that. Well, if you haven't seen the theatrical version, you wouldn't know the scene I'm talking about anyway, because that scene wasn't in the Snyder cut. But so for people in the know, that scene would have triggered something in your head. But it was so much better to have him there, being that kind of like, because they cut to him in a couple of important scenes and let you know that he's the one that's really running this shit, that he is the man kind of pulling the strings from all these people. And I thought it worked out much better, and I was really surprised that Joss Whedon did not recognize how important that could have been for this franchise moving forward to give him a better setup. It really kind of boggles my mind, because I know that he had to have been in. Now, I know that he hasn't really been a part of the MCU since the end of Phase 1, since the first Avengers film came out. But a lot of that setup in Phase 1 was on his back. I mean, it was him and Kevin Feige that were doing all this. So I'm really surprised that kind of just went over his head and that he handled it so poorly. But then again, I mean, he did reshoot a bunch of the movie. Maybe he thought that he was going to be around for a while and he wanted to kind of give it his own thing. I don't know. I wasn't there. He doesn't talk to me about this stuff. All I know is that it wasn't handled very well. He didn't really utilize even the existence of that character very, very well. I was really disappointed. It wasn't something that he played with enough, and it was really disappointing. But
Josh, bring back Firefly, and then we'll talk.
Yeah, bring back Firefly. Give us a good movie. Give me a good Firefly movie, and you'll be back in my good graces for all.
Well, they had a Firefly movie.
Another one.
But
maybe a TV series. I'd rather see
another one.
But another big difference was Steppenwolf's design and story. Steppenwolf not only has a new look and slightly altered voice from the theatrical version, but also a new motivation. In the theatrical release that we got a couple years ago, Steppenwolf created the Unity on Earth using the mother boxes. Was part of his own design. He was the villain, and it stopped with him. If Darkseid was meant to be someone pulling the strings, as I said, from somewhere else in the universe, it was never really stated with any clarity. With Darkseid reinstated into Snyder's version, Steppenwolf is now trying to scorch all the Earth in order to pay off a debt to Darkseid, who banished him after an unmentioned betrayal of some kind that doesn't really go into. Steppenwolf owes his former master 50,000 more worlds before he can be let back into the fold. And this creates an emotional vulnerability for Steppenwolf that wasn't present before, as well as a better understanding of why Earth is such a prized possession, it being the only planet, like Cora pointed out earlier, that ever sent Darkseid packing after it kicked his ass. Now, as far as the design is concerned, look, the story was far superior. It was much more involved, much more engrossing. He was a cookie cutter bad guy. He was just another comic book bad guy that you had to defeat in the theatrical cut. I think this one gave him a much better story. But one of the things I did like about it was the design. Now, I will say from the neck up, I like Snyder's version of Steppenwolf better. But from the neck down, I kind of like Whedon's a little better, because I don't really understand why he made the costume this moving metal weirdness. I mean, it looked cool.
That was so weird. It was almost like it was a living being on him that was like moving. It reminded me of like a school of fish or something.
Yeah, it looked really
moving
cool.
In the water.
It looked really cool, but I really liked that kind of medieval armor that he had in the first film, and we just lost a camera somewhere. I really liked that medieval armor that he had in the first film. That seemed to go a lot better for me, and for those of you watching, yeah.
Just me, or was there significance that after he touched the boxes when they united, that his eyes changed colors and his armor actually got bigger?
I'm not 100% sure. All I know is I liked like I said, from the neck up, the Snyder cut version of Steppenwolf I think was much more enjoyable, the voice and all that stuff. But the overall look of the character, I kind of liked it better from the theatrical cut, because he looks more like a warrior from thousands of years ago, rather than something that looks so new and metallic and weird. I know he's an alien, if you want to call him that, and that's fine. But I still kind of like that because the stuff that he had in the theatrical cut looked like something you would have seen Russell Crowe wear in Gladiator. And I kind of like that look a lot better for somebody like Steppenwolf. I don't know. What did you guys think?
It was dynamic. I mean, like I said, it was almost like he put new armor on to go to battle on Earth. It did not look like it was old, like you said. I don't know. I haven't seen the original, so I can't compare.
If you were going to come back to the one planet that actually kicked your ass, I mean, you'd come back with a new set of armor. You'd go grind your XP, come back, and then try and kick their ass again. You know.
But in theory, nobody knew at the time when he went there that was the planet.
Yeah, maybe he didn't know that, but that was the one that. I don't know. Just from a gamer's perspective, I'm like, that's probably what he did. He just farmed some XP and was like, "Yep, I'm gonna go back and try and kick your asses again."
He got a new enough points to upgrade his armor,
right?
In the new update expansion pack or whatever.
Yeah, now it's pay to win. You got that fucking gold armor like an asshole.
But one of the reasons he was way more enjoyable, if you compare him to kind of his, what is I think a fair analog in the MCU is Loki. It's like as we got to meet Loki, Loki was not just a cookie cutter bad guy. Loki's got his own very deep backstory. I mean, we're introduced to that obviously in the first Thor movie. So by the time the first Avengers rolls around and he's the one doing the bidding of Thanos in New York, you have a different attachment to his character. Again, I didn't feel any attachment to the theatrical cut version of Steppenwolf. It was just he was basically Darkseid's attack dog. There was no
he's a one-dimensional kind of guy.
There was no real substance to who he was in the theatrical cut. I think this film gave him much more substance, and I always like it when the villains of a story are very deep and people that I want to know more about and get emotionally involved with or intellectually involved with, because that makes the back and forth between them and the good guy, the protagonist, that much better. You know what I mean?
Like it's like he had a motivation. He had a reason for doing this too. It was not like he's just a bad guy to be a bad guy. And he's like, I'm gonna go collect these 3 things, and then I was kind of. Like, I knew, like I said, me being like the DC person, I was kind of like, yeah, I understand this, but the problem is I understand this because I know about it. If you didn't know, you're kind of just like left there knowing that's a bad guy. These are the good guys. All right, now fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I thought Steppenwolf was much better fleshed out, much better put together, a much better story for him. Because if you don't have a good villain, I mean, let's face it. If Marvel has done anything right, it's been they've had good villains that you can maybe not get on their side, but you have a better understanding of who they are compared to other villains and other action-y, comic booky kind of generally one-dimensional stories. They've done a great job in putting great villains out there. This is a much better villain than anything that we've seen in the DCEU prior to this. But yeah,
if you could understand why that person is doing what they're doing. And it's like, I love when it's more of when you can actually take no one's the bad guy in your own story. So it's like, to himself, he's not really a bad guy. But to us, it's kind of like, hey, who the hell are you? Get off our planet.
Yeah.
But,
I've always thought the bad guys, and I love the Batman lore, don't get me wrong. But I've always thought the bad guys were almost just ridiculous, but like not in a horrible way, but just in the true sense of comedy. Except for Joker. Joker's the one exception. And I just was really happily surprised to see that the bad guys really were scary and like, what the fuck,
I was like, I could do a whole video on like Batman's villains. I'm like, I've always said he has like one of the coolest rogues gallery of fucking like intriguing bad guys, because a lot of them have their own their thing is tied to something that they were before they became a bad guy or when they transformed. It has something to do with them, and they all have their own deep story, and it's really interesting. And I'm like, I mean, also, who has that wide range of them? Talk about some ridiculous shit. Talk about like the Condiment Man and shit like that. That's a real Batman villain. Google it if you don't believe me.
No, I've heard of it.
Yeah,
from you months ago when I first started talking about Batman.
Yeah, or like Great White. or White Shark, whatever the fuck his name is. But shit like that.
King
But-
Shark. King Shark.
King Shark, maybe that's the one. Yes. You know, there's he's got some wild ass villains. That's why I like him so much.
Yeah, before we move on to the next one, though, let's talk real quick about a couple people in the chat. JCS Foot Rubs was here from the very beginning. What's up? Miss Cora's on the call right now. Bry Guy is here. Let's see. It's actually a couple of people. We're about 9 viewers strong right now, and I'm really happy to see that. My buddy Charles Elliott, what's going on, my man? Rachel's in there. We see her a lot. Let's see. Who else is in here? Trina C, what's going on? Glad to see you, too. Thanks for coming and checking us out. My youngest son, Max, is in here to kick it with us. Michael Clow, what's going on, man? You see him over on Derailed a lot more and more lately. Glad to have all you guys here. Thanks for checking us out, guys. Go down in the comments and in the chat and let us know what you guys are thinking of all the stuff that we're talking about, because I've still got another 5 or 6 pages of notes of things that were very, very different that we're gonna. I won't go over all of them. I may get to some of the smaller ones towards the end. But the next one I want to talk about is from the very beginning. The entire opening was different. The opening of the theatrical cut was basically like these vloggers that were following Superman around as he was doing all his shit. And I didn't like that opening, but I was just like, yeah, I get it. You do what you do. It is a modern opening, I guess, because so many people, whenever something crazy goes down, the first thing they do is pull out their phones and start taking videos. So I kind of got it. But this one was way different. The podcast kids filming Superman's funeral, and the world mourning his loss are gone as the opening. These scenes represented a massive reshaping of the story for the theatrical cut. The theatrical version wanted to hammer home at the start that Superman was gone and that the world was very vulnerable, which I understood that, and I got it. Batman kicks off the movie already knowing there's an alien invasion, using a burglar's fear to draw out a parademon. The burglar, played by Mindhunter's Holt McCallany, by the way, I butchered that name really bad, who does a ton of heavy lifting in the exposition front. But none of this is part of the Snyder Cut. And we now start with Superman's scream upon his death reverberating around the world and waking up mother boxes and giving Lex Luthor a glimpse of Steppenwolf. Then it shifts to Bruce traversing the Icelandic tundra in search of Aquaman, only knowing that he needs allies and not that there are actual aliens attacking the world. So they did very much change where we were from the very beginning of this film. I like this opening a lot better. I don't know the significance of the death of Superman being what wakes up the mother boxes. I don't understand that. There's not.
Well,
really...
they made one reference in the movie in that they were purposely hibernating because they were scared of Superman, and when he was dead and they didn't feel his energy, they knew it was safe to awaken and call out for their masters.
Yeah,
but they know he's gone.
But the mother boxes.
So now's the time.
Yeah, they also dealt with the Atlanteans, who are still there. The Amazonians, which are obviously still there. There's no lanterns on Earth that we know of. I mean, they never really got a chance to address that in Snyder's world. But I mean.
Deadpool killed Ryan Reynolds, so not going to happen now.
See, Ryan Reynolds is out, so
But I agree with you about the opening scene. I wrote in my notes opening scene, and then I just kept making points, and I kept waiting for the plot to start from one of those, and I ended up with 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 opening scene submarks, because the plot didn't actually start until we seen so many little mini scenes. So yeah, I agree with you.
We got 4 hours. Sit tight.
Oh, when it said part 1, I'm like, oh fuck.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm like, oh no, we're doing this. Oh god.
Yeah, the runtime was something.
Then I'm like, oh, how many? Yeah.
Oh, the runtime was.
The theater luckily gave us a break.
4 hours, 2 minutes, and 44 seconds.
I gotta be honest.
Yeah, they gave us a break, like right at the 2 hour mark.
Yeah, for the runtime. Look, for all the noise that was made about Endgame's runtime being 3 hours and a couple of minutes, people were like, "Oh my god, who's gonna want? Should there be an intermission once you get to that point? I mean, what if somebody's got to go take a piss or just wants to go refill their drink or whatever? You could be missing something significant." I gotta be honest. The runtime for Endgame, I didn't even feel it. It felt like an hour and a half, 2 hours. But runtime is one of those weird things because if it's a really, really bad movie, a 90-minute runtime can feel like forever. But if the movie is phenomenal and fantastic, much like the Snyder Cut was, you can see 3.5, or 4 hours just things like that. They feel like they go by in a blink of an eye. So that's why pacing is important. That's why editing is important. That's why the way you put together a movie is important, because that impacts how the viewer is perceiving, the runtime in your film. But I mean, for 4 hours, I didn't get up off my couch for 4 hours. I didn't get up to go pee. I didn't get up to make food or grab a bag of chips. I sat on my ass and was enthralled in all 4 hours of this film.
Well, I don't know about you, Jeremy, but for me, the first 2 hours were a little slow. And then once the 2 hour mark hit, I got lost in it till the end.
Yeah, I don't know how. It's like right exactly at the 2 minute mark, or 2 minute mark, the 2 hour mark. It was already it was like a weird, like you'd expect there. It kind of stopped, and it's like now it's about to fucking take off.
Mm-hmm.
Like they stopped and they poked their head and they're like, hey, 5 minute break if you guys want to just get up, stretch, do your thing. I'm like, oh cool, because I'm like, oh god, it's about to go, isn't it? Yeah, and it just I didn't mind it because I get it. This is kind of what I was looking for. I'm like, this is more of the delving more into like the lore, the other characters that we hadn't seen as much, like the Flash and Cyborg, who I'm glad got more screen time because someone says, "Oh, it's almost as if that actor and Joss Whedon didn't get along or something." I'm like, that's believable. It's almost like they sidelined the hell out of him. I'm like, no, I'm glad they didn't because he's actually pretty fucking important.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about Cyborg and his role in the movie later on. That was one of the things that was in my notes that I wanted to go into. But
and they gave Superman a little more time too, which I actually enjoyed.
Well, they were used properly. Like I said, the one thing about the theatrical cut that always bothered me, it's like Joss Whedon was no dummy. I mean, I don't understand why he would go in there and make some of the odd creative decisions that he made. That seemed like he was just like, well, whatever I did on, for the first, phase of Marvel, I'm gonna do the opposite because what the hell? This is Justice League. It's the opposite of Marvel. Not really. You still got the two between Batman and Superman. You've got the two most important comic book characters ever. I mean, even now with the MCU having become what it was, Batman and Superman are still the most bankable comic book heroes that you could possibly work with. Those are the best IPs you could have, and they still have managed to find a way to just miss. It's like they're just not doing well with just developing these characters, and I think they're starting to understand something that I said from the very beginning when they first announced Batman vs Superman, and then they were going to do Justice League. I was like, don't you really want to establish these guys first? I mean, because I held up the example that Marvel has, and I don't want to compare them too much to Marvel, but let's face it, these are the only two franchises that you can really compare to one another. You can't compare these to anything else. It's like Marvel took some time to make an Iron Man, a Captain America, a Thor, and they kind of established this universe with some strong characters, and then they brought them together in the Avengers. Whereas it seemed like the DCEU and Warner Brothers, they wanted to try to get back in the game with one swing of the bat. And they were like, we're going to go right to the mashup movie. We're going to do Batman vs. Superman and Justice League. And it's like, well, Batman vs. Superman would have been okay if it was its own contained thing. And it was probably a decent enough way to introduce Batman into this universe that you had created with the Man of Steel. But I was like, why jump right into Justice League? I mean, they barely took 5 minutes to introduce Diana Prince in the Batman vs. Superman movie. They hadn't really. I mean, it's like you have this little blurb of like Flash and Aquaman and like these weird closed circuit TV feeds. You don't know anything about these characters yet. It's like, you sure you don't want to have at least one standalone movie for each of them? I think it would have gone much, much better, and I think that's what they're trying to do now with this whole thing. They're obviously trying to do some kind of Flashpoint paradox storyline with this Flash movie. That's what they're trying to do, is they're trying to reset and try to go back to the point where they can say, okay.
So they got the cart before the horse on it, is what you're saying.
Now they're trying to turn all that around. They're trying to use this Flashpoint paradox or whatever they're going to do with the Flash to try to reset their universe so they can actually do it more like the individual movies, setting up the individual characters before moving into the mashup stuff, which is fine. It doesn't bother me because I think DCEU's been on the right path for the last couple of movies, but you could have done that from the very beginning, because my dumbass, who doesn't know shit about making movies, was the one that was saying, you should do that. And now that's what they're trying to do. And I'm like, come on, dude. You have some really, really smart people that make a fuck ton of money working at Warner Brothers. You guys should have figured this shit out for yourselves.
Flashpoint is our Days of Future Past. We have a guy who can manipulate time. It's going to be fine. We'll fix it. Or he'll fix it.
If it works out as good as Days of Future Past, I will be just fine.
That's what I'm saying. Flashpoint might be our Days of Future Past.
And I really, really want it to work because I actually I prefer the darker tone of some of the DC stuff to the lighter, goofier stuff of Marvel. And that's why when they
you see how I ingressed,
when they finally said they were going to try to do their own little universe and try to keep pace with Marvel, I was like, great, just don't make it too fluffy and goofy. I appreciate that in Marvel because of what they've given us from the beginning, but I want some of that darker, grittier, meaner stuff from my DC stuff, and they've given it to me for the most part. But again, they just haven't really done enough to establish these characters. And to kind of give us a good version of these guys that is solid before they try putting them all in the same scene and saying, okay, fight, whoever. Fight your own version.
If I hadn't seen Wonder Woman and Wonder Woman 1984, I felt like I really understood her character in this movie really well. And I didn't know shit about some of the others. Batman, of course, I did know because I saw Batman versus Superman and have seen all the prior Batman movies. But some of the characters, like you said, they were robbed of really having some depth because they weren't developed with the fan base prior to this. But I don't think there's any reason why they shouldn't do a second and third movie. But I don't think they will from what I've been reading. Warner Brothers seems like they got such a big stick up their ass about, not wanting to admit they were wrong about the quality of this movie or the cut of it. That they're just going to eat crow and just say, we're done, which is really sad.
And you can just keep sitting here taking the backside of our hands, smacking you, telling you you're fucking wrong. But hey, you don't want to listen to us, fine. That's why I'm glad this is gaining steam, and even Zack Snyder's on board with fuck Warner Brothers, man. Like we're gonna.
Some people are thinking about boycotting them until they agree to make a second and third one. It's like I don't think that'll work.
No, I don't think. I don't know. It's not like we couldn't. He's kind of our Batman right now. He's kind of like, fuck them. They haven't fought us. It's kind of like we can do this. It's not like we couldn't. I almost said crowdfund this. Like people will be behind this. They'll see this and they'll know. Because people are saying like Zach, what do we do? He said, just see the movie and suggest other people to see it. And I'm like, that's the best thing you can do right now. And I'm like, yes, people are gonna see. I'm glad this is that whole tale as old as time. There's the directors want to make something, and then the studio's like, yeah, but we want to make this. And then who wins in that situation? This is kind of the first win that we've really had. Right. This is the first win that directors really had.
Do you think that Zach would even come back if they made second and third after the way they've trashed him?
Well,
I mean, that's pretty tough.
I wouldn't want anyone else doing it. That's the thing.
Look, money can be worked out. And to be absolutely honest, I think from a creative standpoint, if I were Zack Snyder, from a creative standpoint, I would really like to see my creative vision come to fruition. That's just me. I don't know what he thinks. There's a lot of other things that goes into it for him, I'm sure. I mean, like I said, the whole reason why he left the production of this to begin with, why Joss Whedon had to step in, is because he had a personal tragedy that has been well documented. But I mean, so maybe he doesn't feel like he's ready to take that kind of thing on. I don't know. I can't answer for him. If I were him, just my creative juices would want me to go out there and maybe try to finish this thing up. But I mean, I've got an article that we'll cite, I'll cite later on, as we get deeper into the stream about how that's just not going to happen. But one of the things that my son's going to bed. Good night, Max. Love you, kid. Love you guys. But another thing that was a big difference in this was the humor was toned down a lot. One of the major things Zack Snyder wanted to do with his version of Justice League was to have the film reflect the darker, more serious tone of his previous movies like Man of Steel and Batman vs. Superman. Warner Brothers, with the Joss Whedon reshoots, tried to make the film echo the MCU's product, which has more jokes and overall less grim vibe, but not all of the film's jokes were taken out. Particularly most of Barry's silliness remains intact, which I think is important because
that's him.
That's his character. I mean, much like if you tried to make Bruce Wayne anything more than that brooding guy, you would alter his character too much, and that wouldn't work out very well. So I'm glad that he stayed. But the humor,
he's already got the snippy banter with Alfred.
Yeah, but the humorous moments with most of the other non-Flash characters were pretty much kind of taken out completely. Bruce doesn't ask Arthur if he can talk to fish. He doesn't mention his past battles with penguins. Barry doesn't question what brunch is. Cyborg doesn't say booyah. Arthur doesn't have that lasso of truth speech, which I actually thought that scene was really funny. But
I was hoping they were going to do that again.
The part when Bruce brings everybody in and he goes to Arthur, "This is who I work for." And he points to Arthur, and Arthur goes, "Yep." I was like, "That's interesting," or was it just a joke? I don't know, but I liked it. I liked it humanized the relationship between them and how they work together.
Yeah,
I was hoping like when he was standing there talking to Barry, like when he's like, "I thought you didn't care," and he's like, "I didn't say that." I was hoping like maybe just slipped around his ankle like Wonder Woman. You see her go like,
yeah,
just like pull the lasso back. Like,
the whole thing about, do you think you should go for a younger guy? That was just stupid. I was just like, no, like
he's basically like Spider-Man, kind of like in the MCU. He's kind of like the goofy, like quirky one. That's just hilarious. That's why I saw him as.
But he's the fucking savior of the day. I mean, if it wasn't for him, like, well, fuck. And then he's also the savior of the day when you read the plot for the second and the third movies, because he figures out how to go back in time and warn Bruce that he has to die so that Lois doesn't die, so that Superman doesn't turn evil, so that the world can survive. I mean, he saves the world twice.
I'm glad they started to touch on the whole like time travel thing, because he said like, I've gone fast enough and some weird stuff starts to happen to time, and they kind of did that with the mother box when it like they had to get it right when it hit the water. It kind of went in. He started going a little bit faster and it pulled it back out. I was like, ooh, we're doing it. We're doing it.
Did you guys get the? Maybe I'm just new to the DC stuff, but have the mother boxes been a thing for a long time, or is that just for these movies? Because it reminded me of the Infinity Stones of Marvel.
Yeah, I was gonna say those are basically the Infinity Stones.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. Jeremy might be able to answer that a little bit better than me. I'm not as read up on the comics as I once was. But I know the mother boxes or some analog does exist in the comic book world to the mother boxes. I just forget exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Which is tied to it, because at that last scene with Superman helps him separate them, and you see the ghost figure or vision of the three women who survived on the battlefield before when they defeated Dark
Side.
I always say Dark Seed because it's SEID.
Yeah.
Anyways, I just thought it was interesting. Like, are these boxes or are they inhabited by these witches, or is it both?
Well, they are living. The boxes are a living entity in themselves.
Okay.
Like, I don't want to go into space magic and bullshit right now. It's just like that's kind of what it is. That is kind of what it is.
It's a good place to start.
Yeah.
But another thing that obviously was very, very different was that final fight. And I know I'm kind of jumping around the movie a little bit, but that's just what's next on my notes. A good chunk of the final battle between the Justice League and Steppenwolf's forces has been big time changed, or restored, really, depending on how you look at it. The orange-red sky in the theatrical release is now just a night sky, and he added more moments involving Batman breaking through the zone's barrier, Cyborg trying to connect with the mother boxes, while Diana and Arthur are fighting off Steppenwolf. And Flash racing around the area to achieve his maximum charge, which, whatever. I didn't really like the...
So mad when he got shot by one of the bug guys.
I know, me too.
It's like, no, not the little guy, not the kid.
Yeah, some of the elements from the theatrical cut remained, like Bruce...
Mr. Wayne, that all feels so good.
Yeah, like Bruce leading the parademons away, and Arthur surfing down the building on the back of a parademon, which I still think that was really cool. But the ending has been big time switched up with the rule-breaking, like you were talking about earlier, a rule-breaking time travel reversal finish that undoes the Unity and blocks Darkseid and his demons from crossing over. Additionally, Snyder Cut's Steppenwolf is finished off very differently with a bit of overkill. Arthur stabs him, Superman sends him a sorry, and Diana chops his damn head off, and Darkseid crushes his head with his foot. That. This ending was just better.
Felt like an actual team effort. It was awesome.
Well, I think the original theatrical version had a good teamwork ending, but I just think this one was done better. I think it fit the film and the narrative. It just fit everything a lot better.
Like I was gonna.
Oh, sorry.
Oh well, no, I was gonna mention I kind of mentioned it earlier. Like they kind of did super. I mean, use the pun, gave him a little more justice in this movie, because I actually liked seeing him more involved in the fight. I love the little quip where he comes in. And he's like, I'm a big fan of or it's something about truth, and I'm like, and I'm also a big fan of justice. I'm like, in the American way, for the OGs out there. And then he fucking hits them. I'm like, I'm kind of mad that wasn't there, but I mean, seeing
Sounds
him
very Captain America, by the way.
Yeah, Superman was always truth, justice, in the American way. That's always what he was back in the 40s, which is ironic. That's kind of when that came out. Yeah, I mean, during that, if you watch the Batman from the 1940s too, there's one from 1943 and then one from 1949. So you got during the war and post-war. It's so weird. It's wild. I'm trying my best to get through the 43 one, and it's so down your throat.
Casey's Russ sent me a link to one on YouTube. It's a 4-hour thing of Batman, and they drive this little two-door car, and they change in the back seat, and
that might be it. Yeah.
And there's and Lois isn't really Lois. She's just I forget what her name is, but she's a photographer. And the bad guys go to some club down at the bay, and it's different. But I love that they still do the pow, jab, boom sound effects when they're fighting in alleyways with the bad guys. I was like, cool.
Yeah, they've done that. So, yeah. I can't get out of my head that the bad guy in the 43 one is I don't want to be is it probably a white guy, but he's definitely a Japanese guy. This is fucked up, and he's got this subliminal mind control crap that he's got going on, and they have this thing where it's Batman fights for his country and you should too, and I'm like, that's literally a line in this show, and I'm like, oh my god, no. Oh, this is so bad. Where was I going? Oh, right. Sorry. But watching Superman actually beat the living shit out of fucking Steppenwolf, that was kind of awesome. Because even Diana was looking at him yo, chill, dude. But I kind of wanted that, and I really wanted to see that. As much as when you choose sides, Batman versus Superman, Civil War, I was like, go with Batman. Hell yeah, fuck Superman. Fuck him. I don't give a shit. When your power's unlimited, what the fuck, But I did enjoy that.
Yeah, I thought it was a much better ending. I don't know if you would have been able to take the ending of Joss Whedon's theatrical cut and put it in this movie and had it made any sense at all or been any better. It certainly would have been any better. It probably would have been perceived a lot worse. But like I said, the ending of this was so much better done. I felt so much more satisfied by the third act of this film than I did by really any part of the theatrical version. And don't get me wrong, I like the theatrical version overall. I think that the evolution from Batman versus Superman to the theatrical cut that we would get of Justice League was a step up. It still wasn't great. It wasn't what I would have done. It wasn't really what I wanted to see, but I do think it was a step in the right direction. And I was okay with that when I left the theater because that's what I wanted. I wanted DC to just to keep progressing in the right direction. And then since then we've gotten Aquaman, which is really good, both the Wonder Woman movies, which are really good, Shazam, which surprised the hell out of me. I was really surprised at how much I like that movie. So I think they were on the right path.
I think they're making a sequel.
They are making a sequel.
They're talking about it.
I think they're on the right path, which makes me wonder where this movie even fits in. Because we know we're not getting any more Snyderverse. The Zack Snyder is done. But we'll go into that a little bit later on. Now, one of the scenes, this scene didn't sit well with me. I don't think it was necessary. Was that scene where the Flash saves Iris West? I'm like, she's not a significant part of this movie at all. She is not in any other part of this movie except for this scene. I don't even think she says a word of dialogue in this scene. Now, we all know who she is. Again, if you're a comic book fan, or even if you watch the stuff on CW, you're kind of in the know. But, a big Barry Allen scene that was cut from the theatrical version was the one featuring Kirstie Clemens as Iris West. That was now back in. And then we see Barry kind of scatterbrained and spread a little bit too thin, applying for a job at a dog groomer's when an accident outside the store makes him race out and do his Flash stuff and save somebody from danger.
This was a nice comic relief break from all the action, by the way. This was really well timed
It
where they placed it in the movie.
But it's still significant for the character, which made it. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of it, but he does right out there, and he saves Iris West from this runaway truck, which in and of itself pays tribute to Flash Schrader Gardner Fox. I don't really know how. That's just what I had read somewhere, so I wrote it out of my notes. This sets up Iris for future appearances in the DCEU. Whether we're actually going to see her again or not, I don't know. I'm not even sure if this actress has been cast in the next Flash movie. I don't know yet. But well, it also gave us a good introduction to Barry before we meet his wrongfully convicted dad in prison. It also makes more sense to see this before his dad later chastises him for working too many jobs and wasting his life. I got to be honest, this whole scene was pointless. It was a little bit of fan service maybe, and I think maybe that's why he put it in there. But Iris West does not play any significant part of this movie. I don't think she has a word of dialogue. I
Well, I think she was talking to her car. But...
Well, okay, any significant... Yeah, she was talking to her car, that's right. But it just no
maybe they included it because they spent a lot of money on the CGI for the crash scene, and they said we might as well put this in since we spent so much money on producing it.
Well, probably.
Well, hey, it's Zack Snyder. We're going to miss a chance to go slow-mo? Hell no.
Hey, don't get me wrong.
Sorry.
The effects of it all, the car flying and all that stuff was cool, but this scene was completely not needed. It was completely not.
It seems like it should have been in a movie all about Flash, not here.
That would have worked out a lot better in the first act of a Flash movie.
Mm-hmm.
If they would have went back to it, I was thinking that maybe it was hopeful wishing that I'm like, maybe, because I'm like, I knew who it was. I'm like, ooh, we're doing that? We're doing that now? Cool. Hopefully that actually goes somewhere. And now I'm like, well, it's probably not going to, but... So I see why you think it's pointless, but I'm like, I thought maybe it was just like wishful thinking that's hopefully where, now that that's set up, that's where that's going to end up. But
oh yeah,
I guess not.
Absolutely. But again, I guess he was pointless. But one of the things that we did get that I was really, really happy that we got Black Suit Superman.
Yeah, we did.
Most of Henry Cavill's scenes for the Justice League were reshot by Whedon, with his Mission Impossible Fallout mustache easily removed. Remember Mustache Gate?
Yeah.
Thank God thank God none of that stuff actually showed up in this movie. I honestly thought it was.
I'm not gonna lie. When Superman came back, I was looking at his face like, can we still see it? Can we still see it?
I was too. I was looking for the digital stuff too. Thankfully, it's not there. The theatrical cut kind of nixed Superman's black suit and changed everything for Superman's first battle with the Justice League upon being resurrected by their mother box to his role in the final battle against Steppenwolf, to many other scenes throughout the film. As part of the added Superman scenes in the Snyder cut, we do see Superman walking back through the Kryptonian ship, and the computer saying, "The future has taken root in the present," which is a line from Excalibur. Does this mean Superman, who was brought back, is destined to become the nightmare version of Superman? I don't know. Not that it matters much at this point anymore, but we did get to see the black suit Superman. Now, Henry Cavill was really big on teasing some black suit stuff during production of the film. He was on Instagram showing little pictures of the fabric and shit like that. So I'm actually really, really glad that we got it, because I think he looks dope as shit in that black suit. What'd you guys think?
Yeah.
I didn't know the significance in the lore about it, but I thought it was kind of appropriate that he came back to life, and his suit's different, just like Gandalf went from being gray to the white, It's just a part of evolution. It's a literal visual cue. I'm not the same man anymore.
Well, I thought it was interesting, and Jeremy, I don't know if you noticed this or not. As he's walking through the Kryptonian ship, you see all these. It was almost like an Iron Man-like moment. All these different suits are coming out of the wall, and one of them looks kind of like an armored version of a Superman suit. You end up coming across, of course, the red and blue one that we're so used to seeing Henry Cavill in, or really any Superman in. There was a couple different kind of versions of a Superman suit that came out, and then he obviously, this one comes out that you see. And your guys' camera's position changed. That was weird. This one comes out that he sees that we don't, and the next thing you know, that big door is. You get that dramatic garage door open reveal, and it was Henry Cavill standing there in the suit. I don't know, maybe the color palettes made it weird at first, but I was looking really closely, and I thought, is that the black suit, or is it just my eyes playing tricks on me because the color's weird? He's backlit, and I can't really tell. Sure as shit, that was Black Suit Superman, and I fucking loved the way it looked.
Yes. That's what it says. I'm like, Cora's like, I don't know anything about this, and I'm like, I'm sitting here on the edge of my seat, like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I loved it. I loved every minute of seeing him in the black suit. I thought it was freaking dope.
Because I'm like, I know what that's about to probably mean then. And also it does kind of take on that darker tone of like she said, like him coming back. I mean, he's not quite the same. Because, when he first came back, he was, they had that little tussle. Like, shit, I don't know who I am anymore. They changed that too, where it's like Lois Lane, I guess, was the key in that moment where they're like, here, bring her out. He'll calm down. But
yeah, I remember
she just kind of happened to be there.
Yeah, I remember right before Justice League came out, I put a video out on the channel that said some of the things I wanted to see in Justice League, and one of the things I wanted to see was less Lois Lane. I don't have any problem with Amy Adams playing the role. I think she's fine in it. I just don't like the character they built for her.
Have you read the plot stuff that Zach said about the second and third movie?
I've heard some of it. I've seen a few videos, and it's been mentioned in a few articles. I haven't read anything too in depth on it yet. But
the part that surprised me was he was going to have Batman have a romance with her, and they were going to fall in love before Superman came back, and that was going to be the reason why he died for her, because he loved her enough to let her live, even though he knew that she would likely get back with Superman if he died.
God, that's too soap opera. I can't dig that.
and they it, and I'm glad they did, because and that's why I think when he's talking to Joker, and they're talking about letting her die, and I think it's a reference to the romance angle that was previously cut.
Yeah, I don't like that at all. It's a little too Days of Our Lives.
Yeah.
It's really, really hard to do romances in comic book stories anyway, without them feeling very out of place and just kind of obtuse to the rest of the movie. Because we've never seen, well, not in very many spots anyway, we've never seen Lois be romantically involved with anybody other than Clark Kent / Superman in some facet. It's kind of worked out in those ways, and Bruce has never really had, with the exception of like a Catwoman and like a few dalliances here and there, he's never really had a woman in his life. Other characters, maybe.
Like Mickey Hale,
exactly.
maybe.
In the article, they actually put a line of dialogue that was supposed to be part of the movie with that plot. And immediately talking to Alfred, he goes, "No other woman could have gotten me to want to have a home life. She's the reason why I want to be Bruce, not Batman." And I was just like, she's Superman's girl, not yours.
But that's the thing, though. In this context, that would have made for horrible storytelling. This whole love triangle between these three, it's like, come on. I mean,
they did it better in the Nolan movies. Like, that kind of at least made a little more sense. It seemed kind of distant still, because like he told her, like, well, when the world no longer needs Batman, we could be together. So it's kind of like creates this rift between them, but it's always like kind of there.
But honestly,
it's not too over the head.
But didn't that movie get better when she died? It's like
Why? Because it wasn't Katie Holmes.
Because of the love triangle. Once she was taken out of the equation, and that triangle didn't exist anymore, that movie got better. Sorry, I'm
pretty sure that's how they did it, because they were just like, fuck her.
Yeah, I was perfectly fine with her. I was perfectly fine with her being blown up.
Dark Knight is amazing, and I will fight anyone.
It is an amazing movie. It's easily the best of the Nolan trilogy. But yeah, that whole movie, that whole story got better when she blew up. Sorry, I'm just gonna tell you the truth, kids.
well, here's the thing. That's the motivation for Two-Face. Like, I get it. She kind of has to die. That's his whole thing.
Yeah, I agree.
It proved the Joker's point that like anyone could fall. So that's why he did that. He's like, well, I'm gonna kill your girl. Watch this.
Yeah.
Everyone's got a button.
That was the Joker's point, because like that's why I'm glad they did the one bad day storyline with Joaquin Phoenix. I'm like, it just takes one bad day, somebody get pushed over the fucking edge and they break. And that's kind of his whole point. That was his point, yeah.
But
I never saw that Joker movie. Is it worth watching?
Oh my god!
It's a fantastic character study on mental illness. This man who is on the edge and can be pushed in either direction. It is a terrible comic book movie.
Okay.
It's
so just because was before he became Joker, not what Joker is.
I don't want to go too much into it. I actually did a review on this, and you can go back and look at it if you want. It's the thing about Joker is what makes him terrifying is that you don't know his backstory. He is just a physical personification of evil. It's like if evil had a baby with more evil, it came out the Joker. That's what the Joker is. That's one of the things that Christopher Nolan did very well with Heath Ledger is that he, over the course of that movie, he gives 3 different stories as to how he became.
Right.
So you still have no freaking clue where this crazy guy came from. It just adds to the mystery. Now, giving him
Joaquin Phoenix one, go ahead.
But giving him a backstory takes away some of that fear. Knowing that he was once a regular guy who was pushed over the edge, I understand it from one perspective because it is a very interesting study of mental illness and how a person who is already kind of on the edge in an environment where everything is so bad can be pushed to one side or the other, and he obviously falls on the wrong side after he gets pushed over the line and crazy shit happens and he becomes the guy with the face paint who kills people and acts all crazy. But I don't like the fact that they give us a backstory. I think they got away with it in the Michael Keaton movies because they didn't really focus on it that much.
Yeah.
And they kind of had to for the trope of he was the one that killed Bruce's parents in the alley that night in that movie. So they kind of needed that to complete the trope. But I still, the thing I like about the Joker is that you don't know why he's evil. He just is. And that lack of information you have on him is what makes him more terrifying. If you're going for a terrifying rendition of him, now if you're going
kind of like the bad guy in this movie, Justice League Snyder Cut, because you don't know why he's you don't know what he did to make Darkseid mad, but you know that he did something wrong, and he's got so much evil. I mean.
Well, he's motivated.
I don't know.
He's motivated to go through whatever he has to do, no matter who he has to kill, no matter how many people he has to kill. He is just single-minded of purpose, which that can be terrifying in and of itself. But like I said, I mean, go watch Joker. It's a fantastic movie on its own. I don't like the way that they tried to make it a comic book movie. They tried to connect it to Bruce Wayne, and they tried to bring in the Wayne family. It was just like it's a totally standalone Joker movie, but don't forget the Waynes still exist. And then it was like more of this is like, oh, but wait a minute, but here's the Waynes again because we want you to remember that Batman will exist in this world at some point. It's like, come on, if you're going to tell a story about the Joker, like only about the Joker, stick to the Joker and stop trying to throw Bruce Wayne in my face every couple of minutes to remind me that this is a comic book movie. It just didn't need it.
Well, I think the thing that they're maybe trying to do that I can defend that on is like the trope of the unreliable narrator is like really over this movie because you're kind of like wondering like, wait a minute, like what was really happening? What was true? It's also like you said with like the mental illness angle. It's like in his own mind, it's like this is what he maybe thinks is happening or what he wished would happen, but it doesn't, and it starts to meld between reality. Like when you realize like, oh. You see a scene, and then like when we go back, and it all starts to unravel, and you realize, oh, he wasn't really doing that, or that person wasn't there with him. It's kind of like, oh, holy shit!
Yeah,
and then it kind of explodes in your face, and I was like, see, that's cool. I like that.
Yeah, you realize kind of how psychotic he was at the very beginning.
Yeah, like that was just like, I mean, I don't want to ruin it like for anybody, but like that moment, you know what I'm talking about? When he was sitting there, and I was just like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Well, I've loved every incarnation of the Batman, down to Jack Nicholson, Heath Ledger,
even the bat nipples. Even the bat nipples.
We've all seen the bat nipples. We can't unsee the bat nipples.
Thanks, Schumacher.
But
thanks for that.
Another thing that was very present in the story is there is way more Cyborg and way more Silas Stone in this movie than there was in the theatrical cut, which I actually liked. I was kind of worried that
to the ending of using the mother
box.
What's it called?
The mother
Box. I was going to say Mother Stone, and I'm like, oh, that's MCU. To save Superman, because they are the ones who came up with the idea and actually used it. So we have to have more backstory from them for it all to make sense, in my opinion. They're the foundation for the ending of the whole ending of the movie and the saving of the world.
Well, that he had that connection with the Mother Box because he was of one of them, the one they had on Earth. I'm like, well, that kind of makes sense that he'd be the one to do that, to tap into it and be able to manipulate it.
Yeah,
agree.
But overall,
it was all very well done.
Overall, it wasn't just Cyborg's origin story that was kind of missing from the theatrical cut, but it was also his very integral role in the breaking of the Unity itself and the full scope of the abilities that he had been blessed/cursed with by the Mother Box and his father Silas. Cyborg really, Zack Snyder said at DC Fan a while back that Cyborg is the heart of this movie. Cyborg is the thing that in the end holds the team together in a lot of ways. And that Victor Stone's genius and intellect and football prowess and strained father-son relationship, that all this stuff was very significant. Lost my notes for a minute. So I was trying to read faster than my eyes were following.
I was going to ask you guys real quick. I thought it was, I don't know if it was just, maybe it's supposed to be poetic, but his dad died for nothing. The bad guy got the box anyways. His dad shouldn't have killed himself.
No, it actually says that the reason his dad did that was because his dad was trying to give them a way to track the box.
Yeah, he superheated it with that laser, which is what they were trying to do with the scientists. He was like, hey, if we can make this thing,
I missed that,
we can track it. He's like, yeah, if we make the inside of it the hottest thing on Earth.
I thought what he did just gave them we could look for the other boxes if we look for this. But I guess you're right. But I thought it was really awful he had to die.
Well, it also kind of gives him that motivation now that he kind of with the strained relationship, and he kind of comes around on his dad, and then he just had to sit there and watch him basically get Thanos away in that fucking box. I was like, oh my good God. And yeah, now he's pissed. Now he's going to do this. So might have just been extra motivation.
Yeah, I also, and nothing to do with the story or anything, was also kind of surprised they made him such a focal point, because there is this ongoing thing between Ray Fisher and WB about how he was treated on the set by Joss Whedon and blah blah blah. Made a lot of he made a lot of accusations behind closed doors, but never really made public specific any details about what was going on. So I thought maybe that while they might enhance his story a little bit for the purpose of the narrative, that they would probably still kind of keep his involvement a little bit below what some people may have wanted, because they didn't want to make him too big a part of the movie to bring attention to all that stuff. You know what I mean?
Well, it shows it's big of them to do what's right for the movie and the plot and honor the director's wishes rather than be petty. I mean, if they're not going to make the sequel and they're going to just make this their last, effort with this project or this line of projects, at least they're doing it the way it was meant to be and taking the high road.
Well, from what I read, they had actually contacted him, and Zack Snyder contacted him and said, hey, do you want to come back and reshoot some scenes? And he basically said, no, I'm kind of done doing all this. And this was early on in the lawsuit and all that stuff, as it was starting to really get going, especially as it was all starting to become public. Now, I don't know if he did. I don't know if maybe he didn't do it because he didn't want to deal with Warner Brothers anymore, or maybe he kind of saw the writing on the wall that this was just going to kind of be it for him anyway. I mean, one way or another, I think we're done seeing him as I almost called him Cyclops, as Cyborg. It's unfortunate because, again, his whole character was stripped down to kind of almost nothing in the theatrical version. He was much more fleshed out and a much more enjoyable character in the Snyder Cut. And I actually appreciated his character a lot more in this. So it's disappointing for me to think that we're not going to be seeing him anymore. I mean, did you guys get that feeling at all from it?
I don't know. I don't know enough about the backstory myself, but I thought he was great. But I'm not saying he's not great. No one else can do it, but I'm sure somebody else can step into those shoes and really make it their own and really honor the character well.
Yeah, recasting is always a possibility for everybody, But I think it does come to that thing about not wanting to have these standalone movies to establish your characters. I feel like this movie helped establish him to me as a viewer a lot more than what the theatrical cut did. The theatrical cut, it looked like he was kind of a throwaway character. It was just kind of like, here's this guy Cyborg, you're going to see him down the line. Okay, go off camera now, asshole. We don't really need you for the scene anymore. And that's one of the reasons why we couldn't really connect with him in the theatrical version. You connected with him at a much better level in this version. And did
he like double his screen time or something?
Oh, it probably more than that. He's
wow.
He's a very, very small part of the theatrical cut. I mean, he's got some
important.
Obviously, he's around.
When you watch that movie,
he's around.
You're gonna be disappointed.
I would say about 90% of his screen time in the theatrical cut is in the final battle.
Oh, wow.
He does have that one really cool scene where he introduces himself to Wonder Woman.
The waitress with help at giving her money, and I loved how they visualized the dad's explanation of what he can do while he's listening to the tape recorder, of showing him inside a machine system, visualizing it in his own way. It was very, very well done, and I loved it. So
yeah, you definitely got to see the best part of Cyborg in this version.
You're gonna hate the other movie, trust me.
I probably won't watch it.
Well, I mean, watch it. I mean, like I said, it was a good step up. It was a step in the right direction for the DCEU. It wasn't everything I wanted it to be, but it was still a decent movie. But I've said it before. How could you possibly switch directors in the middle of principal photography and get a movie that is as good as you want it to be? I mean, if Jeremy starts making a movie and then he quits and I come in and finish it, they're two great filmmakers to be sure, but even great film. But I mean, Scorsese and Spielberg. If you mix up those two guys, they're still going to have different visions. It may be the same story, the same characters, the same dialogue, but the way they're going to present it is going to be very, very different. So you're going to come out with a very uneven movie. So yeah. It was always going to work out that way. The fact the theatrical cut ended up as good as it did, I think is probably a huge positive, because I do think it was a good movie, and it was a step in the right direction. It wasn't great, and I really, really wanted to see them hit their stride with that film, and they just didn't. But again, it may not have been anybody's fault. I mean, I don't blame Zack Snyder and his wife for wanting to step aside and deal with what they had to deal with at a personal level. And honestly, Joss Whedon was fresh off of designing Phase 1 for the MCU. Why wouldn't you want that guy to come in and bring a little bit of that zest to what you're trying to do with the DCEU? You know what I mean? So I mean, on paper, it makes sense.
I'll get to watching it, but I have 5 more MCU movies to watch before I'm caught up. So that's my priority right now.
That's
Doctor Strange next on the list.
Yeah, another thing that happened in this film that I thought was really, really cool. And this was something that was cut out of the theatrical film, of the theatrical cut that we got a couple years ago, was we get Martian Manhunter. I was so happy to see him.
You guys give me some background. Was he in any other Batman movies?
My God, no. Hold on.
No, this is the first time we've ever seen him on camera, on screen, in a film.
Okay.
But he's
in the comic book.
Not counting animated.
Because in the
animated show, holy crap. Like I'm saying, watch that. That's amazing.
He is a huge factor in so many comic book storylines.
Okay.
He's a very cool character. That scene between, obviously the first time we see him, and I was really kind of surprised.
I freaked the fuck out.
Yeah, that first scene that we get is that scene between Lois Lane and Martha Kent. It happens earlier in the theatrical version, but that's not the only difference. In the Snyder Cut, Martha is actually revealed to be the Martian Manhunter, a.k.a. Harry Lennox's General Sandwick. And on top of this, the entire movie now ends with the Martian Manhunter introducing himself to Bruce Wayne and then flying off. Now, in the theatrical version, that conversation does happen between Martha Kent and Lois Lane, but it is just Martha Kent and Lois Lane having a conversation. And I think it happened
Is there significance?
What's that?
Is there significance that he's trying to nudge Lois? I mean, why would he fucking care?
Lois Lane was the key.
Oh, that's right. And, at the end of the third one, supposedly, her being alive keeps Superman from going bad. But how would he know that?
Well, he's Martian Manhunter. He's kind of special.
He's the Martian Manhunter.
Okay.
Yeah, he is.
I love that he came down to Bruce Wayne like, "Hey, if you ever need me, I'm here, dude. Peace."
I'm trying to
I'm
think
like,
of a Marvel equivalent to Martian Manhunter that we've seen in the MCU, but I'm kind of drawn.
Nick
I'd like Doctor Strange.
No, not Nick
his
Fury.
hand in everything.
Doctor Strange, maybe.
Maybe Talos. From Captain
Yeah.
Marvel, maybe.
Might be a good.
I don't know. Maybe there isn't anybody that equates very well, but
I'll
he is.
And try to read some of the backstory of this guy from the comic books.
But yeah, I loved it, and I actually, as after we had that scene with him portraying to be Martha Kent in that conversation with Lois, we get that scene, and then he turns into he turns into somebody else. He's revealed to be a Martian Manhunter, and I said, "Holy shit! I want more of this right now. Give me this film right now. Get it in front of a camera. I want to see it." And then as we go on and on about the movie, we get closer to the end. The final battle's done, and I'm like, "Wait a minute!" So Martian Manhunter shows up for like a 30-second scene, and then he's gone. I was like, now I'm thinking to myself that maybe that was just supposed to be an introduction, and that Zack Snyder had plans to use him in a much deeper capacity on down the line. But at the same time,
he's like White Vision.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden he just kind of pops in as Bruce Wayne's rolling out of bed one morning and has that really cool conversation. And there was a lot of cool setup for what would have potentially come over the course of the next couple of movies had Zack Snyder had they wanted to stick around and keep their creative relationship going. I was totally stoked to see that. Martian Manhunter has been a character that, like Jeremy said, in the animation he's been everywhere. In the comics, he's been everywhere. But in the live action stuff, he's just somebody they've never touched. And he's a really cool character that does bridge. He can be that connective tissue.
Like you in Star Trek TNG, like this all-knowing kind of pops in and out when he wants and helps sometimes.
Similar, yeah.
Okay.
Similar, but because that universe is so much different. He's a similar kind of character. His motivations are a lot different than Q, though. Q just wants chaos. Martian Manhunter, he really wants things to be on the level. And one of his, as I recall, Jeremy, and maybe you can correct me on this, I think one of his missions is to help keep things balanced.
I was gonna say, if anything, he's like the balance. He's
So he's an archangel or something.
In a manner of speaking.
Maybe he's the prophecy that Star Wars was talking about. He's actually the one who brings balance to the Force. I don't know. It's more so what you
Yeah, but
he's a
Jedi. There we go. He's a secret Jedi. He's the last Jedi.
Pretty much. And that's the thing is, I'm glad we got to see a little more of that Green Lantern in the beginning, whoever was fighting, because that's a whole thing. The Lantern Corps, that's that you can delve into just in the movie itself without Ryan Reynolds. I'm sorry, man. and I'm like, we're not even done. Like, that's not even all the fucking members, man. Like, you still got a couple more you can do, even with Martian Manhunter and Green Lantern. Like,
This movie was really fantastic with the score, the lighting, the costuming, the character development. I mean, if there's a checklist of 10 things that really define a good movie, just in filmmaking, it checks off all the boxes for me. So I was impressed with that.
You said music, and I'm like, wait, I have one gripe. Only one thing has actually bugged the shit out of me since I've seen the movie. When Aquaman is chugging down that thing of whiskey and going back into the fucking ocean.
He doesn't finish the bottle.
That?
He doesn't finish the bottle. That bugged me
yes,
too.
That bugs me. I know he didn't finish the bottle of whiskey, and that's a sin in itself. But what the fuck was that score? What the hell was that? Now, this is the other thing for the original that I like. The original, it's trust me, the original, it's this slow motion. It's this badass little rock riff. It totally fits, and I'm like, oh, that fits his character. I like it.
It seems like something they would have put in a movie about him. I got the vibe, this should be a scene in a movie all about him.
Like, the Aquaman movie was really good, I thought. And, it still fit that vibe. It's a good one. I would recommend it, too. Even though, I want to...
They just wanted to put in because they had it and they're trying to, fill some time, or did it have significance?
No, it's just that was kind of more of an introduction, but we didn't have the Aquaman movie yet. So seeing a little more of him, save that guy on the boat, and he just boom, yanks him in. He's like, yeah, it's on him. And you see him just like badass walk back into the fucking ocean with it. And I'm like, that's pretty. I was like, I'm sold. This guy's awesome. And then we got to see his movie, and I was like, all right. If I can share one thing, because we're all probably thinking it. The movie lagged a little bit, or like stopped right when Steppenwolf was like kicking the shit out of Amber Heard's character, and it stopped. And I was like, no, I want to see him beat her ass. Fuck her. Damn it. Fuck, I think the lady in front of us like laughed or something. It's like, damn it.
All right,
sorry, that's just me being person.
You're Team Johnny Depp then, huh?
I am team Johnny Depp for sure. Sorry.
That poor guy. I feel so bad for him. You know it's bad when her own dad is going to court giving you evidence to prove his own daughter is a liar.
Right. Nobody believes her stupid ass. I don't know why this is. I don't even know why this is a discussion. That's what I'm saying. Why is this even?
Because the media picked it up and people paid attention.
Yeah, but it's like, I guess.
Like, why do people even know about the Zack Snyder, Warner Brothers issues so much? It's not just fandom. It's hyping up, breaking the fourth wall of movie making. As someone who enjoys movies, I really don't care about the fourth wall stuff for the most part. I just want to know, aren't you going to make more movies? But
where do we go from here? It kind of gives light to some of the things that you're like, oh, that makes sense now, why this is the way it is.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys caught it over the course of the movie, but there was a lot more F-bombs in this movie.
True.
I like cursing.
That's DC. We ain't scared.
Yeah, they restored a lot of the R-rated language. So if you ever want to hear Batman tell Joker, "I will fucking kill you," or hear Cyborg say, "Fuck the world," then you're in luck. The Snyder Cut not only spruced up the violence and restored more of the on-screen fatalities, but it also contained a handful of F-bombs. I thought that was badass. When Batman looks at Joker and says, "I will fucking kill you," I was like, that is the perfect bit of dialogue that tells you exactly the hatred and vitriol that exists between these two human beings. So when I heard that, I was like, that's the Batman v Joker relationship that I want to see play out on screen. I don't want to see any cartoony bullshit. I don't want to see any of that. I want to see these two motherfuckers start throwing hands till one of them is dead. That's how I want to see that relationship play itself out.
But they're going to end up in a nursing home having rooms across the hall from each other going, fuck you, every time the other one opens the door and sees the other one.
What's your name?
Throwing suppositories at each other.
Yes.
They're both like fucking the god damn it. Yeah, Heath Ledger Joker said, he's like, you'll be in a padded cell the rest of your life. He's like, maybe we could share one. I'm like, yeah, right. You're both gonna be in Arkham, fucking still yelling at each other across the hall.
No doubt.
Yep. This has been fun. I'm glad you suggested we watch it because I probably wouldn't have otherwise. So thank you, Frank.
Oh, no problem. It was a great movie. I was very happy that it came out. But before we get to the last couple of things and maybe even get to some of the things you guys are talking about in the chat, I'm going to do Jeremy's favorite thing right now. Hey, everybody, go join our Patreon.
You say it like I know.
You bitch every time. You bitch every time I put this on screen. Every time I put it up there, you're like, fuck, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, by supporting us for $5 a month on Patreon, you get a chance to win $25 in free movie tickets to the theater of your choice every month. It's not even really a gift certificate. I'm basically just going to PayPal you $25. You can spend it on booze, whores, and weed for all I care. But you're going to win something just for supporting this channel for $25 a month. Now, the reason I say free movie tickets is not because I want to go throw more money at the people that make billions of dollars in these movies anyway. But as we're coming out of this whole pandemic thing, theaters are starting to reopen, even in places like New York and Los Angeles, California, and all that stuff where they've been trying to keep everything closed. They're going to start opening there in the next week or so. That's very fantastic news for everybody, especially the people that work at these theaters. So this $25, really, I just kind of want you to go spend it. Just, take your significant other, go to see a movie. Maybe drop it on some popcorn or something. Help support those people that work at the box office, the concession stand. Those are the people that we really want to support because those are the people that need it the most right now. Theaters have been closed for, well, really for a calendar year. I mean, now at this point. And that whole industry, not the movie industry, but the people that work in this industry to serve us as we go see movies, they've been struggling. So let's get out there as fast as we can, as soon as they start opening theaters. Even if you're going to see some classic stuff, Back to the Future, Jurassic Park, things like that, go see something in the theater and start pushing these people, back towards a level of comfort that they're happy with. They're just trying to work and get through life the same as we are. And I'm hoping that this $25 in free movie tickets that we give out every month is going to help you kind of go pay it forward to those folks. So if you support us, you can get $25 to go see free movies. So if you guys would do that, that would be fan-damn-tastic. Actually, we'll be giving away, I think next week is when we give away our next $25 in free movie tickets. So
nice.
Get in before the show next Thursday, and you'll be able to be in on that. But, one of the other things that I wanted to point out before we get to the more general discussion is the lack of post-credit scene. Now, we
ain't Marvel.
Yeah, the post-credit scene we ended up getting in the theatrical version, I thought was a decent enough scene, and obviously it was when they were planning on doing more Justice League stuff down the line. At least had different plans for it. But, Whedon's cut of the film included actually two post-credit scenes. One of them was of Lex Luthor and Deathstroke meeting, which has now been altered and included in the body of the main film itself towards the end. In the Whedon version, it seemed to be setting up...
Oh, the boat?
Yeah, it seemed to be... Now, in the Whedon version, it seemed to be setting up kind of the Injustice League or Legion of Doom thing, for those of you who remember the 80s cartoons, type of thing. But now it plays more as a prelude to the Ben Affleck Batman solo film that never happened. The other scene has been completely cut from the Snyder version. Now, that was a segment where Flash and Superman took off on a race to find out who was the fastest man alive, with brunch as the prize. Looks like we're never going to find out who won that race. Or will be, maybe.
That's a big thing in the comics, too. I was mad they took that out. Like, that's always been a thing. Who was faster, the Flash or Superman? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure Flash, dude. He's fucking the fastest thing ever. He can manipulate time. Yeah. Superman can't do it. And we're not talking about the movie where he fucking spins the earth backwards, because that's not how that works.
But to say,
that's not how that works.
Technically, he can.
No, because I knew you were going to go there. No. It's not how that works. I don't care if it was the 70s. Fuck you.
Well, also, there was no Flash, as anybody knew back then, so there wasn't a Justice League or anything that existed back then. But,
that's true.
But yeah, here's where I'll talk a little bit more deeply about why this movie ultimately kind of left me a little disappointed. It left me disappointed because I really liked the movie. I think this is a far superior version. Still a few things I don't quite jive with, and I've talked about them already. But when I got done watching all 4 hours, 2 minutes, and whatever seconds of this, I found myself wanting more. I found myself saying, okay, now when I see the next thing that comes out from this universe, I'm going to be ready and happy to see it. Like I said, the last several movies have been good. Aquaman, Wonder Woman. Say what you want about Wonder Woman 84. I thought it was a fun movie. Shazam. I mean, they're definitely on the right path now. But now, knowing what I know about what's come out since this Snyder Cut has been released, it seems like it's a lot of build up for nothing. It's like when you watch the season finale of your favorite show and it ends on a cliffhanger, and then 2 months later the show gets canceled. That's literally what it felt like. And I say that now because there was an article in, I forget where the hell I got this from, but it's titled, Warner Brothers has no plans for any Snyderverse films after Justice League. This is actually written by a guy named Jacob Dressler that was published a week or so ago. And Zack Snyder's Justice League proved that plenty of good things were possible with the DCEU. While it seemed unlikely that Zack Snyder's version of the superhero blockbuster would ever be released, fan demand changed that completely. As a result, we now have a new and mostly critically successful cut of the Justice League. As such, fans might be wondering if there's any further plans for the Snyderverse to continue. No. In news that was revealed by Warner Media CEO Ann Sarnoff, she explained as much to Variety, during a new interview. She said her name was Ann Sarnoff. Sorry. You can blow her up on Twitter and tell her we want more Snyderverse stuff. She was quoted as saying, "I appreciate that they love Zack's work and that we are very thankful. And we are very thankful for his many contributions for DC. We're just so happy that he could bring his cut of the Justice League to life because that wasn't in the plan until about a year ago," which it wasn't. With that comes the completion of his trilogy. Whatever. He made 3 films. I don't know if I'd call them trilogies, but whatever. We're very happy we've done this, but we're very excited about the plans we have for all the multi-dimensional DC characters that are being developed right now. As soon as I hear multiverse, multi-dimensional, blah, 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 I instantly grab the sharpest thing I could find and start sawing away. Dude, this concept of a multiverse, it's so shitty.
Are they just going to make another Wonder Woman movie, another Aquaman movie, another Flash movie, and call it good and just skip the Justice League altogether when that's what people want?
You see, right now, we have no clue. Now, here look, I don't like what DC's got coming right now. I understand that, like I said earlier, they're going to use this whole Flashpoint thing in the Flash to kind of reset their universe and give them and kind of help them kind of start a little bit fresh. They're obviously wanting to keep Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. They obviously want to keep Jason Momoa. They obviously want to keep Shazam. They want to build off those three things, and I have no problem with that. Those are great films, and I think you can do well to build off those. Problem is, like I said earlier, Batman and Superman are the biggest comic book characters on the planet, maybe even in the universe.
Yeah.
Assuming that they have comic books on their planets, of course. You can't push this thing that far without having these guys solidified, without having these characters firmly planted in your universe. So I don't know what they plan on doing with this. Now, this is what worries me about this multiverse shit. You had this Joker movie that came out with Joaquin Phoenix, which is a great movie, terrible comic book movie, but a great movie overall. It doesn't really exist in any universe. It is its own thing, its own standalone thing. I think that these people at DC looked at that, or Warner Brothers specifically, looked at it and said, hey, we have this thing that exists outside of what we've already got that did gangbusters. It made $1 billion at the box office, critically acclaimed, talking about Oscars, blah, blah, blah. Maybe we can just go ahead and have different universes with all the same characters. Like, so you really want to have 3 different movies with 3 different Jokers? You really want to have 2 or 3 different movies with 2 or 3 different Batmans? You want to have different... I mean, it's confusing and it dilutes your product.
That's why I don't want to watch the
for you.
because I like the original X-Men movies. I hope they just don't redo it all and pretend like this didn't happen.
Well, see, here's the thing. Who's going to do their multiverse first? Is it Marvel or DC? And I'm like, yeah, well, you're going to have to fucking step up here at some point. You're going to have to deal with the fact that there's multiple. And like, that's the joke is like, well, obviously the guy who plays the Flash in the show is different than the guy we have in the movies. I'm like, yeah, but the joke is you could make that's a version of them. That's a different Earth, and this is a different one. And they cross paths just as fan service. You can see this Barry Allen just step into his world and be there for a second. Like, hey, I know this guy. I know this Batman thing. Superman went kind of fucking wild.
The Flash. Dan watched that when we first got together, and that thing where they all converged a couple years ago. It was like 3 or 4 episodes of. I don't remember what it was called. I'm chopping it up, and you got to see 3 or 4 different Flashes.
Yeah, like you can make it work.
Here's the thing: is I don't think Marvel's going to make it a significant part of what they're doing. I think the multiverse is going to be Marvel. I don't think Marvel wants to get too deep in on this, so I think Marvel's going to use this multiverse thing I think the seeds were sown in WandaVision. I think it's going to become probably way more significant in Spider-Man 3 because of all this, and it's going to complete in Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness. I don't think it's something they're going to carry on for like a full 6-7 movies. They've managed to do it pretty well on the CW, mostly because they don't use the multiverse that much. It's mostly used as just this bridge to bring all these characters together for that mid-season crossover they've been doing every year for the last 4 or 5 years. That's really all they use the multiverse for. And the one time that they made it a significant part of Flash, it was kind of set the stage and helped push along the plot for the 3rd or 4th season, where at the end of the season before he goes back in time to save his mom, and the entire next season was all about the crazy things that have gone haywire because of everything he changed, and then he goes back and changes it back and doesn't fuck with it anymore. So even they use the multiverse sparingly. I don't know if they're going to be able to create an entire universe on Earth 99, Earth 627, Earth 116. It deludes all this, especially when you consider that there's not even any evidence that this is going to be a multiverse thing. You're just going to have different storylines going at the same time. So you're going to have the Robert Pattinson stuff that's going to be coming out in the next year. It's going to be in its own established universe, and it's not going to have anything to do with anything. You're going to have, Ben Affleck is coming back to play in the, Batman or Bruce Wayne in The Flash, and that's the last we're going to see of him. They've already said that he's not coming back, so they're either going to recast him or start a whole other Batman thing in there, which now you're going to have 3 different Cape Crusaders running around somewhere, and none of them are going to exist in the same zeitgeist. It's like, come on, I can't. It's a mess. They need to consolidate this down.
Yeah, I agree with you. From what little I have been able to follow, I don't understand why they even had Ben Affleck stop being Batman. I mean, what was the reason?
Well, a lot of it was creative stuff. I mean, one of the things that Ben Affleck had established when he even decided to play the role was that he was going to write and direct his own standalone Batman film, and he was well on the way to doing that. And then eventually, Warner Brothers kind of pulled the rug out from under him. And then eventually it was like, okay, I'm not going to direct it and write it. I'm just going to star as Batman. And then by the time it really all played itself out, the relationship had been so just completely decimated between the two that he just didn't want to do it anymore. They really kind of shit on him, which is unfortunate for me because I think Ben Affleck is a hell of a writer and a director. He's a really good actor, but I'm sorry. Have you seen The Town?
Oh, yes.
He wrote and directed that movie. That movie is fucking phenomenal.
He's really good.
He wrote and directed...
Have you seen The Accountant? Where he...
The Accountant was really good. The Accountant was really good.
Oh my god, that movie highlighted his acting skills.
Was Argo? Did you see Argo?
Mm-hmm.
He wrote and directed Argo. Argo won Academy Awards.
He given 1 or 2 Oscars for that.
Yeah, Argo won all kind of Academy Awards for writing it. Actually, I think he won Best Director for that movie. Dude, he's a really good filmmaker. And to top it off, he was really this was a personal mission for him to make sure this was done right because he is a fan. He is a fan of these characters, of comic books and all this stuff. All the way back from even before he became big as an actor. This was one of the things that he really wanted to do. So he was personally very passionate about putting out a great story and making sure that it was amazing. And they kind of shit on him. I think Warner Brothers just didn't have their shit together.
Is there a chance that another production company could take over for Warner Brothers at some point and fix all this shit, or are they solid with
legally, they're legally, financially, and everything in bed with DC. I don't know if they.
I mean, they made Marvel Studios. You can just make your own studio. Fuck it, DC. Go ahead.
I don't know that they own DC the way that Disney owns Marvel now, but I know that they are pretty well entwined. That they can't really work without one another. As a matter of fact, the guy Walter Hamada, who was the one that Warner Brothers hired to run the DC stuff. I'm pretty sure he's officially a Warner Brother employee. But Walter Hamada, since he came on to start running all this stuff, that's when everything kind of started to coalesce a little bit. We got the Wonder Woman and Aquaman and Shazam, and he kind of started to bring everything back towards the center a little bit. So I'm really happy with the job that Walter Hamada has done, kind of running all this stuff. He's really done a lot to right the ship, and I think that
he can't dissuade the assholes from stopping the Justice League movies. He's just there to do whatever they greenlight above his head.
Ultimately, he's in control, but he still does serve a higher power, and that's all the people at Warner Brothers. Mm-hmm. It's like Kevin Feige is technically in charge of everything Marvel, but he answers to Bob Chapek, the CEO of Disney. He answers to all the people that are higher up in Disney, but he runs Marvel, the Marvel arm of Disney. So,
gotcha.
It's...
In the end, he's a minion, but he's a creative genius.
He's upper management. I guess is the best word that I can come up with that makes sense to most people watching. But but still, I mean, they give them a lot of creative control, but at the same time, they are going to be overruled at a couple of stages here and there. The question is how much can you let them overrule you and still help create this creative stuff, and still give your directors their opportunities to shine and do stuff like that. But I don't know. It's whatever.
So
it's gonna be.
I have a question for you guys, both, since you're deeper in this than I am. If you knew that they weren't going to make a second and a third, would you have wanted to see this, even though you know it was going to be kind of like a dead end, like cliffhanger kind of thing, or?
Oh yeah.
Would it have soured to somewhat degree, or?
The curiosity would have made me sit and watch it. Because for all the noise that was made about even getting the Snyder Cut made, I was really curious as to what it was going to look like. And I know that Zack Snyder is a very unique filmmaker in and of himself. So, I mean, he's done like The Watchmen. Look, the comic book stuff, Zack Snyder himself is a big fan of these stories. He did The Watchmen. Which was it's a little over some people's heads that aren't like really steeped in the comic books. I know of The Watchmen, but the movie was actually really, really cool. and I'm not that deep into that kind of comic, because that's a really different kind of comic book. It's very, very deep. But I really like that movie. A lot of people kind of didn't get it. I liked it. I thought it was good. But he's a fan.
I haven't seen it, but I've heard good things about it.
Yeah, he's a fan of all these IPs, of all these characters and all these stories. So he was very passionate about this as well. It's just unfortunate that things fell out the way they did for him personally, that he couldn't finish this movie. But yeah, I totally would have seen it. I don't think if we weren't doing YouTube, I'm pretty sure one day I'd have been like, Jeremy, come on over, we're gonna barbecue some food and we're gonna watch Justice League Snyder Cut. And there would have been a Sunday where
you could ask me to do that this weekend, and I would still say yes.
I think the curiosity.
You did that with you did that with Endgame once. You're like, hey, let's just fucking watch Endgame. I was like, okay. You were like, let's watch it. I'm like, that's 3 hours, but all right, man.
Let's put some meat on.
I'm down. Like I did. Hey.
That's what I'm going to be watching this Sunday during the pay-per-view. My goal is to get through to get from Doctor Strange. I almost called him Strange Man. Doctor Strange. Through the end of the Avengers movies by Sunday night. So, yeah. I'm looking forward to talking to you guys on Monday so I can go, oh my gosh, I know what happened to this and that. Yeah.
Yeah, but
so this movie was fantastic, Frank. I really did like it. I always loved Batman movies, so for me, this has been more my go-to. So maybe I'm more of a DC person than a Marvel person, because I've really even ever since I was a kid, I loved the lore of an everyday person, finding a way to utilize what they have in their life to become super, but not being supernatural inherently. And it's almost like the ultimate you can do anything if you put your mind to it inspiration story, even though there's a lot of darkness to it and weird shit to it, but I always felt inspired by Batman growing up.
You have unending wealth too,
Yeah, I did love the line. He goes, well, what's your superpower?
I'm rich. I'm glad they kept that. I was going to be pissed if they didn't keep that.
There was a picture that I almost used as the background for this stream before picking this one. It was like all the superheroes are reaching up towards the sky, and it's like Flash.
Oh yeah, I heard that.
And then Wonder Woman reached up with her sword, and at the other end, it was like Batman reaching up with a fistful of money.
Like a wad of cash.
That's good.
I thought that was pretty funny. I almost used that as a background just as a goof, but yeah, it was pretty funny.
That would have been awesome.
Yeah,
but it was to the point. It was exactly. It wasn't snobbery. It was like, well, I'm rich.
Yeah, it's just like I'm rich, man. Like that's my whole thing.
Yeah, as a matter of fact,
I liked it.
One of the things that I had made notes about, I mean, I'll drop it on here because it was Batman's little tech side quests were a lot different in this movie as well. There were a couple of little Batman side stories in the Snyder Cut that weren't in the Joss Whedon version. They didn't have anything to do with Alfred getting fidgety over Diana making tea, but Bruce, throughout the movie, is developing a new gauntlet that can also absorb energy. He uses it to save himself from Superman's heat vision when Superman first comes back and goes a little crazy. While also trying to fix that giant plane so it can fly, which Cyborg gets working. Neither of those arcs had huge payoffs, but they were in the movie nonetheless, where they weren't in the original theatrical cut.
See, something I'm kind of hoping for is, I'm like, if we were going to go with this Injustice timeline, like with the evil Superman, I'm like, doesn't Batman have somebody? I don't want to say it was Martian, but like somebody went and got he gave like a kryptonite infused arrow to like Green Arrow to fucking try and kill Superman to get him to stop at like some point. Like
maybe.
He somehow, I think he somehow tried to get like some more kryptonite. I think he tried to he infused it with one of Green Arrow's arrows, and they were trying to use that to stop Superman. I'm like, I think that was a thing once. Now I like that he infused it into his fucking suit and some other shit. So, oh no, that was in the game. I'm sorry. There was like a green kryptonite infused suit that he could fight Superman with, kind of like his Hulkbuster, if you will.
Yeah, one more thing I noticed from the movie, and I'll talk about it because it's an interesting little point. And Jeremy, you might kind of feel this one. A cut from the original theatrical version, but added back into the Snyder cut, is the Star Labs epilogue scene towards the end of the movie that names Silas's co-worker, a fellow scientist, as Ryan Choi, who takes over for him at the end of the movie, obviously, of course, because Silas was killed. Ryan Choi is the character that in the comic books anyway, goes on to become the Atom.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, there's seeds being sown for all kinds of things that could have potentially come through over the course of a couple more movies.
Speaking of that, I'm excited for this Black Adam thing with The Rock. That's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited about that too. That movie was in development for so friggin' long that part of me is just like, I'll believe it when I see it in the theaters. I don't care if you show me set photos of The Rock on set in costume doing stunt work stuff. I'm gonna be like, I'll believe it when I'm buying my ticket and I'm walking to the theater and I see the opening credits happen. It's like that's what I trust.
I trust Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Come on.
I know they've already made it, but fucking A, I want to see James Bond already. And what you said about them extending Black Widow, it's like I put it on 3 different calendars and told Dan we're gonna go see that opening day. I was like, ugh.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I'm not surprised either. I'm not surprised either.
Movies. It's already in the can. Just send it to the theater. Sorry, I'm venting. I just get frustrated.
I know. Like I said, we should have had the spoiler discussion for this up literally a year ago. This movie was supposed to have been out a year ago. I think last week or this week maybe.
Yeah, I think it was just thinking that.
This movie was supposed to be out a year ago.
Yeah,
but whatever. It's. I know why everything got pushed. I understand it. It's way out of our control. It's way out of It's way out of the production company's control. It's way out of the theater's control. I'm just everybody be safe. Wash your hands. Social distance. Do what you got to do to help us get through this stuff, so the theaters can get reopened and we can go out there and we can just go see a movie again.
Fuck yes.
That's all I want to do. Just everybody handle your business, be good to each other, and that's it. But I think that's a pretty good. We've been talking on this for a while. I think that's a pretty good time to start wrapping this stuff up. So I mean, Cora, do you have any final thoughts on the Snyder Cut?
This reignited my love of Batman stuff, and so it's got me wanting to go back and maybe rewatch a lot of the Batman movies I haven't watched in years. I think after Loki, and we have more downtime. Less saying if they don't have another miniseries after Loki, but I'm gonna start watching maybe once or twice a month. Watch some Batman movies again. Yeah,
Jeremy,
so it's inspired me to.
Yeah, you know what's really cool? It's like I think I probably speak for Jeremy a little bit when I say this. Is we get to experience these again for the first time, kind of vicariously through you. So when we jump on here and you're like, "Oh my God, I just watched Infinity War. It was so great," and it's like me and Jeremy remember what it was like 5 years ago to sit there in the theater and see those big moments as they were happening. So we get to kind of feed off your enthusiasm for experiencing these things with fresh eyes for the first time.
See, I'm the weirdo who, not to divert too far off, but when episode 9 came out, I purposely hadn't seen episode 7 or 8 yet. I was waiting till 9 was right about to come out in the theater. And then I watched 7 and 8 2 days beforehand so I could watch them all together.
Jesus, that hurts.
I have a lot of patience when it comes to movies. Like, I've never seen the movie Avatar, and I know everybody else has ever seen that. So, I don't know. I'm more inclined to keep up with the MCU stuff because it seems like it's a living, breathing thing. And just like hopefully with this Justice League movie, maybe DC will start pumping out new content. Wouldn't it be cool if they did the angle of Marvel doing the miniseries?
They could.
Like,
they do have HBO Max out, so maybe they will branch out into that at some point in the future. It would be really cool.
Awesome. I think it'd be great.
It would be really cool to see them serialize some of these characters and not just limit us to a 2-hour movie. I think that would be pretty cool. It would be, and one of the nice things about what Marvel is doing with these, with the TV limited series is they're able to really draw good stories out and really get deep into them. Like WandaVision would have made a great movie. Man, it was so much better as a 9-episode series.
Yeah,
it's so much more involved. We get so much more attached to it, and and Falcon and Winter Soldier is off to a good start as well. I think we're gonna like what we see out of that, and the stuff that's all coming up.
All the main characters in Justice League could have their own miniseries and be fucking fantastic. Like one of just Joker and Batman, maybe. or what. Fantastic all around.
It is.
But yeah.
Jeremy, any final thoughts from you today, my friend?
Yeah, it just, I guess I see your point now. It's like, this was amazing, and it's sad that that's all it is now. Like, I would have loved to have actually seen this whole thing get fleshed out. Have this whole could have been really, really fucking amazing. And maybe I'm just thinking more from a big fanboy perspective, but honestly, I could maybe put that aside and still look at this and be like, yeah, that was amazing, because DC needs that. So I don't know, keep her to this guy.
Yeah, let's hope that maybe one of these days we can get Zack Snyder back here. Maybe not to complete this vision of what he had, but to at least lend his creative artistry to this franchise, to this group of characters. Because, like, again, this movie wasn't perfect, but damn, this is a great movie. This was the DCEU movie that I wanted to see.
I would actually watch it again.
I will watch it again eventually. I meant to watch it again today, but I got busy doing stuff. But this is a really, really good movie. It like everything that we had bits and pieces of in Man of Steel, bits and pieces of in Batman vs Superman. He really did coalesce some of these things into a really great kind of combined story, and it was fantastic. It was everything I wanted it to be. It is kind of unfortunate. You know, honestly, to this day, I still have not watched... I've watched the first half of the first episode of the last season of Jessica Jones on Netflix, because before the season even came out, they'd already canceled the show. Disney was pulling all their Netflix stuff because they wanted to get everything back in-house. So I'm like, why do I want to sit and watch that last season of Jessica Jones knowing that whatever happens, I'm just going to be left empty at the end? I don't know how the season ended. One of these days I'll sit and watch it all, but it's like I don't feel like I have the initiative to go watch it now, because I know that's just it. Am
I the only one that has changed their perspective on television shows? I'm not starting new shows unless I know they're in a final season. Like, I'll wait years to start a show.
I will try a show if it's interesting. Mm-hmm. But there are some shows that, like, I came to Sons of Anarchy late. I mean, they were already in the second to last season when I started to watch that, and I burned through all, like, 6 seasons up to that point and was caught up by the time the last season aired. I didn't like The West Wing was one of my favorite shows. I didn't start watching that until it had been off the air for 4 or 5 years. But that show, and now I've got almost every episode of that show memorized. And there are some other shows that I come to them pretty late. It's like, some of it's marketing. It's like, I love The Blacklist. It's one of my favorite shows. I haven't
finished that yet because I was waiting till it finished. I don't even know if it's finished yet. I haven't even looked it up.
Yeah, I don't watch the season until it drops on Netflix. I just, because I want to be able to hammer through 2 or 3 episodes at one time, you know, during the day when I'm not, you know, doing anything productive. And you know, Blacklist is one of those shows. And luckily, you can avoid spoilers from TV these days a lot more easily than you can avoid spoilers from films. So
yeah, because people are really talking about it on social media. It's a really good point. I don't see people talking about shows as much.
Yeah,
now, WandaVision was different, I think, because it was such a big deal. But you're absolutely right about that.
But yeah,
I guess maybe to my final thought was like, well, I guess I'm kind of used to that kind of disappointment, because I got into Firefly and then realized, oh, that's it. Damn it! And then there's a movie, and I was still like,
and it was still kind of left open enough to where you didn't really feel like there was that kind of closure you wanted at all.
And that is something I got into late. I didn't actually see it until, probably, that show came out, like 2005? And I didn't see it until 2017. And I was just kind of like, what? At first, I was like, what is everyone talking about? And I saw it, and I was like, oh my God, that was amazing. And I'm like, oh.
I've never seen it. I was going to start watching it. Somebody warned me, you're going to get disappointed.
It's good. It's like the potential. You just realize, oh my God, this would have been fucking amazing. And it's brilliant the way it's done and the way it's set up. It's like, yeah, you believe it. Like, you believe this would kind of happen. Like, it's cool. But then it's like, oh, damn. And the movie doesn't even really help. It kind of solidifies some things, but then it still is, like you said, it's open. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, yeah, but then now knowing that I watched the almost whatever 10 plus years later, I'm like, yeah, now I get why.
No doubt. But yeah, guys, go give Justice League the Snyder Cut a try. It's on HBO Max if you have a subscription for it. It is not a special add-on or anything. It's just on there. You don't have to pay $30 or anything to watch it. So if you're subscribed to HBO Max, I think most people can get HBO Max through cell phone subscriptions
And you can do
stuff too.
1 month if you want to watch it, and Wonder Woman and such.
Yeah, and also I'm pretty sure it's going to be out on DVD and Blu-ray at some point too. If you want to have the physical media, I may actually go get this on Blu-ray as well, just to have it as a part of the
We
of
are
the
too,
collection.
actually.
It is a fine movie. One that if you're a fan of DC and really want to see this and really want to see the DCEU grow, this is definitely one that you guys are going to want to watch. So
I want this on my iPad so I can download it when I'm on a long airplane flight because it's a 4-hour movie. It's fucking perfect.
Yeah, damn right. But thank all you guys for watching. Let's see I don't know who's been around lately. Raw Man just popped in. What's going on, Raw Man? JCS Foot Rub, Miss Cora. Let's see, a lot of other people have been in here. Bullsy came in towards the end. Drew is in here for a little bit. What's going on, my man Drew? Go check him out. Link to his description. The Derailed podcast is below. A bunch of other people were in here. My son and daughter were in here for a while. They better be asleep by now. Rachel was in here like she usually is for most of the shows. What's going on, Rachel? And a lot of other people. Michael Clow was in here for a while. A bunch of other people. I'm not going to go back through the whole thing again. But thank you guys all for coming and hanging out with us. Thank you, Lady Cora, for being so wonderful as always. Thank you to my hetero life mate Jeremy Wolner for being so intelligent and wonderful and being such a big part of the show.
And I think we should give him some props. He had to go to a different location to film tonight to be with us. So he really put in the effort to be on the show tonight. So kudos to Jeremy.
Second.
Yeah, you sir are a gamer. you show up for the big game. You show up for the big game, sir, and we love you for it. But thanks all you guys for coming and checking us out. And we will see you guys on
literally
Monday.
Yeah, we'll see you guys Monday for episode 2 breakdown of Falcon and Winter Soldier. Until then, adios.